Welcome back to Madhouse Podcast. Well, apparently we can't even get through an intro.
Nope.
Just four ordinary dudes talking about our lives. That's it.
So we really enjoyed doing our crazy odd news, and I think we're going to make that a regular thing. So to start it off, this happened over in Brazil. This woman gave birth to her child in the middle of a Metallica concert with Enter Sandman playing. Could you imagine?
That kid has so much pressure on his shoulders now. So
Right? 39 weeks pregnant and was sitting in a special area at this Metallica concert, and
special area
contractions began, and like they didn't really have a chance to leave, so she gave birth during a Metallica concert.
Bro, that is probably like
go down
that
to the
kid
pit,
has the
birth
best
will be a
story
lot
to tell
easier
for the
for
rest of
you.
their lives.
Oh man,
true.
Watch that kid not even like
that
Metallica.
kid is the best.
Probably not. I mean, no offense, unpopular opinion. It was a
They were revolutionary.
I was just like, what?
They were pretty great, dog.
They were revolutionary for their time, man.
No, I know, and I get it. And I had a phase where it was like all I listened to, but I'm going to be honest, man. I usually skip it out of the playlist most of the time.
So what do you listen to now?
I listen to all kinds of shit. It's Metallica.
Except Metallica, apparently.
I have to be in the mood for a fucking 8-minute song.
Does that same thing apply
But
to
you'll
Tool?
fucking bump.
Yeah, kind of. I had a Tool phase, and I just, it's whatever now.
Your whole life's a Tool phase.
You're still a tool.
Exactly.
I'm concerned.
Why?
I'm just.
It's just,
but you just
it's all
do you
right.
legit have a
I mean, it's
problem
not
with
bad.
the music
I'll
itself,
never
or
ever
do
say
you
it's
just not have the
bad
attention
music.
span for more than a 3-minute song.
Hey.
Yeah,
Hey, one person at a time, bro.
yeah, shut the fuck up, dude. No. Again, I'll never say it's bad music. I just, God, I just have to be in the mood for it. It's whatever. It's whatever. It's fuck it. It's whatever.
It's all right. I'll take you to the doctor later. Raleigh, what's your story?
All right. I don't know about Metallica and all, but some dude was out fishing in fucking Australia. And
Fish fucking Australia? I'm going to look. You go ahead. I'm going to look that up on Urban Dictionary. That's got to be something. Fish fucking Australia.
He's trying to get a barramundi fish. But
A what?
What?
some kind of fish that's in Australia. It'll probably eat you. I don't fucking know. But
It is Australia.
a crocodile comes up and tries to steal his fish. So he like starts reeling it in and gets it up onto the shoreline. Well, the crocodile keeps coming after him. Dude drops his hat by accident. And instead of just like fucking off with his fish and his kid, he squares up on this crocodile that's 4 meters. What is that? I don't know what that is in bald eagles, but he gets the hat back and he doesn't get eaten. So I think he won that. And then his kid's like, "Oh, I have 15 hats back home. You shouldn't have done that."
So, did he punch the alligator?
I think so.
In the know?
Like, there's not a whole lot of details on it here, but
There's
punch
not
him
a
square
lot
in the mouth? Because I
to-
feel like that would hurt.
Yeah, no shit. Like, there's not a lot to an alligator. You're either going to hit him right on the old snoot, or you're socking him like in the mouth, which
Right.
the only thing to avoid on an alligator.
I don't know. Them tails will hurt you.
I don't know, bro. I've
How
only
would
ever
you
seen
know?
him on TV, man. I'm 100% good
Yeah.
on.
Usually when I see an alligator, I fuck off the other direction.
Not sticking
just
around
a
for that
fish,
one.
bro. I'm just a fish. You got to cut your losses. Over
Yeah,
a
but the
damn
hat was what he was wanting back. He was willing to give up the fish at the end of the day, but he was getting that hat.
Listen, man, Lid's got plenty of fucking fitted flat bills.
Bro, over a $40 cat, dude.
Yeah.
Right.
He's Australian. What do you expect?
I don't
For him to just go about his business?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know enough about Australians to know what the right answer is. I've heard them described as like redneck Brits.
That's a redneck Brit.
Floridians of the
Yeah,
southern
like a
hemisphere.
hillbilly British dude. You know what I mean?
They're Florida man for the rest of the world.
I guess so.
I mean, they square up with kangaroos all the time, so
Yeah.
Bro, you remember that fucking video that came out a couple years ago? That dude's dog who was getting attacked.
yeah, that's
by a
all I was
kangaroo?
thinking about was
Bro,
this
and
dude
he
squaring up
fucking
with a kangaroo over this
smashed him in
dog.
the mouth, bro. And all the Karens and PETA fucking got pissed. Like, really? If there's any appropriate time to sock a fucking animal right
Yeah,
across the
right.
mouth, it's that right there. Like,
You don't fuck with a man's dog. Like, haven't you seen John Wick? Come on.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's fair.
no kidding.
A hat. I'll cut my losses. I'll square up for my dog.
Yeah.
All right, so speaking of cutting losses, Port Arthur, Texas. Marcus Hubbard decided that he was up for some felonious activity for the evening. And what he decided to do at...
Some Flonase,
Yeah, right.
like the nasal spray.
Yeah. He fucking, at 8 o'clock at night, broke into these folks' shed and tried to steal their lawnmower. But Mr.
Was it a
Hubbard,
writing one?
But Mr. Hubbard, it wasn't a, he wasn't a heartless criminal or anything. He knew that these folks probably weren't going to be able to mow their yard for a while if he stole the old fucking Toro out of the shed. So at 8 o'clock at night, the family was woken up to this dude
This
mowing
man did not.
their front and backyard at 8 o'clock at night. And then when they called the cops, my boy stomped out on foot with the mower. And the cops like caught his ass in the alley with the fucking Toro. But he cut their yard, like he wanted to cut their yard before he dipped out.
At least he was looking out for him. You know what I'm saying? Like
That's
he
what I'm
could have
saying.
just
Like,
dipped
hey,
out.
look, I'm gonna comp your shit. Is what it is. But I
Right.
got you. First one's free. Call me if you need help because I know you ain't got a mower.
That's unfortunate.
That'd be like
you guys
someone like-
need a lawn mowing service? $100.
Be like someone jacking your car and then just be like in the middle of traffic and then be like, "Oh wait, where are you headed, bro?
Yeah.
Work? I got you. I'll drop you off on the way."
You know what I'm saying? But I'm out of here with your shit.
Right. That's wild. So my news story happened in Jerusalem, Israel.
J-Town.
Not to be confused
Yeah.
with Jerusalem, Kentucky.
Well, I mean, I guess it could be confused. That's why I went ahead and clarified. Anywho, bomb scare sets off scenes at panic at Israel's airport after an American family showed up with a UXO. For you guys who weren't in the military, UXO is an unexploded ordnance, or so in this case, it was an artillery shell that they had found in Golan Heights. If you're not familiar with Golan Heights, it's the territory that Israel and Syria has been fighting over for many, many years.
Too long.
But this American family just thought it was a good idea to pick up this unexploded artillery shell and
Did
bring
they
it to the
know
airport.
it
with them
was
to fly
like
back.
was live, or they just thought it was like a cool souvenir? We're gonna take this old arty shell and.
Either way, I've flown quite a few times, and
Yeah, I
never
was
once have
gonna
I
say.
even thought to bring like a
Look nice
bullet,
on the
an expended bullet, into the airport with me. You know what I'm saying?
Solid.
It's
Solid.
But leave it up to an American family to just, I'm going to bring this home with me, Susie.
Jesus. That's fucking
Speaking
lovely.
of Susies, we go ahead and move on to our Karen of the week,
Oh.
where a woman from Washington was in, where was she in? Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. Facing charges of public intoxication. She's also had possession of marijuana, public intoxication, resisting arrest, and resisting search and transport. While she was at the airport, So they found marijuana on her and whatnot, and she attempted to bull rush the gate to get on the airport, and TSA had went ahead and tackled her and removed her before she went on her rant, where she effectively started yelling that she wants to speak to the manager of the entire fucking airport. And I'll go ahead and I'll share this video clip so you guys can all see this as well. But the manager of the entire airport, that is next level Karen. It's not even.
Was Sleepy Joe busy, or fucking governor was just tied up that day, or? Oh.
That's not gonna happen. I'm joking. Who saw him choke me to the ground? Who saw me? I saw you run through the door when you weren't supposed to.
Oh.
You fuck off.
You fuck off, you.
I want the manager of the
Fuck you, bloody fuck you.
Oh
my gosh.
She was really hoping for her, like, Jerry Maguire moment. Who's coming with me? Who's coming with me?
Right.
That dude's just like, I mean, I saw you try to run through to the airplane.
I saw you fuck around, and then I subsequently saw you find out.
But now that I found out, I want to talk to the manager of the entire fucking airport.
Yeah. All right. We can't do that, but I'll raise you manager of security. He'll be here in just
Right.
a few minutes.
Right. He's gonna want to have a lengthy talk with you.
Right. If you want some guidance, he'll give it to you. He'll guide your ass right out them double doors.
Don't worry, we'll give you an escort waiting for you outside. They won't take you home, but they'll take you
Right.
somewhere.
All right. So speaking of news, nobody really wants to hear. A fish fuck, according to Urban Dictionary, is when a transgender individual uses the back of their scrotum skin
What the fuck?
to allude that his pussy is indeed a pussy. That is called a fish fuck. It's an old tranny trick.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I really could have gone without knowing that.
You remember that time, like 30 seconds ago, before we
Yeah.
all had to hear that? That was a good time, and we should go back to it.
You brought it up. Somebody was fish fucking in Australia, and you're pretty familiar with it. So,
Anyways, moving on from that.
Yes.
Last week we went ahead and ended on the topic of cars, and you guys were probably sitting here thinking, well, what do these four peckers know about cars?
Not shit.
Which, not shit in the realm of things. But we figured we'd actually go ahead and take this episode to discuss our background in cars that we've built, cars that we're building, stuff like that. So I don't know who wants to kick it off. I think Boots has the shortest list, so
I'm at, like,
not the shortest thing he has either.
it's really not. It's like a tuna can. But no, I'm at. Shit, what am I at now?
Anyway, might be. Go ahead.
Apparently, I'm at more than 10 cars. Got it. But I actually met everyone here through cars. I started out with a Mark 6 GTI. I
That was your first car?
fucked that car like 6 ways to Sunday. What's up?
that wasn't your first car. Tell your first car.
Yeah, what's your first car?
Yeah.
We're going way
Well,
back.
the first
bro.
car,
Yeah.
first car was a nice little commuter. It was an 02 Cavalier with a cracked
Bro,
dash
you
and
know how many
everything.
fucking
He's
You know
dodging
how
the
much takes
Versa.
place in the old Cavaliers, baby.
Oh man, that was a good
Well,
time.
what was next?
Next, we
What did you
had
have after that?
a brand new Versa.
There it is.
That was the only one I ever. Actually, the only time since I was 5 years old that I listened to my mother. So that was a bad idea. I got out of that. Nothing ever went wrong with it. It performed flawlessly. It just sucked the life out of me. So I got rid of it and got a GTI. That was also a mistake, but I eventually learned that. I actually got Will's Miata. He
I
had
told
a
you not to
old-
buy it.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
the Mark
actually.
6 you were talking about?
Yeah, the GTI. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what you had when I met you.
yeah. I was on car 3. Car 4.
That was the one he used. That was the one he used to just start up in like 32-degree day and just run out the red light in
All
first
right.
gear out of everyone's
Backtrack.
neighborhood.
So,
All right.
yeah, no, you're right. Go ahead, my beast. What was I thinking? Go ahead.
He also board slided it across the median.
Yeah. Oh, that was a good time. No, it wasn't. But anyways, we had a 90 Miata. That car was a piece of shit in the grand scheme of things. It always had some kind of transmission issues of some sort.
Miatas are
2000
fun.
Sonoma that I never should have got rid of. I got it for $1,000, and all it needed was like a fuel sending unit and a door pin. So
Yeah, and you don't have enough fingers to account for all the people who told you not to sell that fucking thing either. So,
yeah, I had your TDI.
oh, I loved that car.
Yeah,
You just love
Don't
buying
worry, he
secondhand shit, huh?
fucked that one up too.
Yeah, what the fuck? I heard about that. How have you done this?
so
The
Will managed to. This is how it started. Will managed to crack the oil pan on it by going over a mount manhole cover in his old neighborhood. And I thought, okay, it hit subframe, but it's a Volkswagen, so the oil pan's below the fucking subframe because that makes sense.
It does.
So whatever, he scraped up my subframe. We get back to his house, hang out for a little bit. I drive home like 2 minutes away.
You didn't notice
And the
snow
next
trail
day,
behind
when
it?
I go to start the car and pull out of the driveway to go to work, I see a giant oil puddle in my garage. I'm like, wait a goddamn minute. Something's wrong here. I still had some in it. It was like a slow leak, but I pull back forward, check the oil levels. Life wasn't great, but I wasn't out.
Pull back forward?
Yes, like into the garage. And anyways, I did all kinds of weird shit to try and get this oil pan sealed up with like Flex Seal, exhaust tape, all kinds of weird shit. Which
Keep
would
in
have
mind,
worked.
Oil pan ever fucking dawn on you?
Keep
What's
in
that?
mind, I bought him an oil pan. It was on the way.
And the very next day, I had planned to go to Atlanta for Gears and Beers because I was out of work at the time. I just wanted to go do some shit and quit hanging out at the house. And Gears and Beers
I
is
was
pretty
poor,
cheap.
so I went out of state to go drink,
out of state.
or out of like two. It's 2 hours away, man. It's practically out of state for us.
Yeah. But on the way, I was like, okay, cool. It's a slow leak. Life's good.
So you
It took
decided to
all
take
night
the car with a hole in its fucking oil pan on a 4.5
yes.
hour trip?
I got some of that good old Rotella T6. I put it in the back seat and I went. And I had lost maybe a quart by the time I got to Covington. And that was like 99, 100 miles. I pull off and check it. Well, because I don't actually know entirely why, but the whole tube, the dipstick tube, was just sprayed, so you'd pull it and you couldn't actually get a good reading. Wipe it off, put it back in, pull it, the whole thing sprayed. Can't see shit. So I guesstimated. I put about 2 quarts in it, 2.5. So I overfilled it. Went to go pull out and get back on the interstate, and all I see is a giant white cloud behind me that covers both sides of the road. And oh shit. So I get out and in a little parking lot, drain a little bit out, burning my hand the whole way,
Nobody cares about your hand in this instance. Go ahead.
Yeah. Get back on the interstate, and I make it all the way down the on ramp before I have another runaway, and the butterfly valve closes and just kills it. Fortunately, because I hadn't put the little race pipe in right there, and I hadn't fully deleted the EGR yet, the engine wasn't boned completely. It was kind of hurt, but it wasn't boned. The turbo was fucked. So I had to swap out the turbo, and the car was down for like a month.
I think we should go back to the beginning days of this TDI when Jeremy and I went to pick this thing up.
All right. Okay. So I worked with this lady at the hospital there on Fort Gordon, and she was like one of those like hella jaded junior enlisted, hated her husband, hated her unit, hated her life, hated everything about it. And her husband at the time had this, it was a 2003, 2002 Jetta TDI, right? And she was like, I don't know, it doesn't fucking work. And I was like, oh, okay, well, what's wrong with it? I don't know. I might scoop it off your hands. What's it, I don't know. My husband, who is an army mechanic, by the way, no offense, but offense. And so anyway, we decide she said, I just want it out of the fucking driveway. I was like, all right, well, I got like $250 in my pocket, man. That's like all I got. And so me and Rodney, we go down, we do a little homework and kind of, do a little backstory on it. And we poke around on it for a little bit. And he kept asking us, are you guys going to tow it out of here? Like, are you just going to like, dummy strap it or whatever it was? Well, for those that don't know, these old diesels have, they don't have an in-tank pump. They don't have a sump pump. They don't have like a priming pump. So if for any reason you pull off a fuel line on these diesels, the pump loses its prime completely. The pump fills with air, and it's a diesel pump. So it's like 20,000 PSI. It needs a fucking prime, right? So sure enough, pulled that fucker out of there. It fired right up, hooked the Mighty Vac on it for about 4 minutes. Pumped air out of it, ran line, cracked the lines on all the crack pipes on basically the hard lines that go from the pump to each individual injector. Fired that bitch right back up. Boy, he was mad, and I saw him around post all the time. I'd make sure I parked next.
Well, so the funny part about this is when we went to go pick it up, me and Jeremy are standing there, and we're like, all right, well, what's wrong with it, or why do you think it won't start?
Oh,
and this dude, dead ass, looks us, mind you, he's a mechanic. Dead ass looks at us and goes, I think the carburetor might be off on it.
Yeah, we got to rebuild.
Me and Jeremy look at. No. We look at each other like,
wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
Didn't say anything. We kind of gave each other the look of, don't fucking say shit.
Oh, yeah, no. I'm about to get this bitch for $250. Boy, I'm out of here.
Right. Mind you, this is the middle of August in fucking central Georgia. Well, south central Georgia, or east central Georgia, where it's
Georgia
95 degrees.
Yeah, it was hot.
Right, 95 degrees, 100% humidity, and we're dummy strapping this motherfucker back to his house, which is probably about 2-3 miles away. The windows are stuck up because the battery's dead in it, and my fat ass is sitting back there in that car just sweating to death. Every stoplight, I'm sitting there just
opening the
door, just closing it, trying to like pull some air in. On top of that, the car doesn't have any power steering or power brakes.
Yeah, because it's off. Yeah,
right, because the car is off. So it was a fucking pain in the ass to get it back home.
And that's not the first car I bought that somebody thought was broke for $250 and then fired it up and drove home. So never sucks to suck.
Did we ever tell you about the M3 that I got in a similar fashion?
That's the one you got for your not an M3?
Yeah. Well, we'll get into it because it's my turn.
Boots, take us to current real quick.
Okay. after that 2015 Canyon, I was tired of shit that didn't work. A 93 Miata, which had a hole in the block, but I knew that, so I got it, parted it out, and made more money off of it. A 93 Del Sol, which was a turd. The 2016, the Mark 7 GTI that's in the garage. A 73 Bug. 2013 Boomer Spec Taco. The 15 Sierra that's out front. And at some point, an 81 Golf whenever Martin gets his life together.
You still haven't got that car yet?
No. But he still hasn't gotten his gun yet. So,
So right now you have a 15 Sierra, a Mark 7 GTI, and kind of a Rabbit.
yeah.
All right. Future plans? Anything in the pipeline for you?
Nothing super concrete just yet, but the definitive goal is to get the fuck out of front wheel drive. And honestly, Coyote sounds like the winning answer, at least today. Like Coyote plus
What about
Whipple.
tomorrow?
What about tomorrow?
That's fair.
C6 was the winner for a while there. Lately, it's been like an 18-19 Coyote.
You spend $20,000 to supercharge that bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Is it really?
It's like 9.
Yeah, it's
That's
for
for
the
the-
kit.
that's for the
That doesn't, yeah. Plus the fuel system, plus building the ass in,
Yeah.
plus all the supporting mods, plus all the tires, plus I mean, that's just the first step.
Right. That's just buying the kit.
And that's if the kit comes with a tune or not.
Yeah, I've gotten
Usually
spend a
not.
couple more grand dyno
Yeah.
tuning it and getting it reeled.
Will?
Well, I've been working on cars since I was a kid. It's been my dad's passion for a long time. Going back, my first car was a 2001 Ford Focus DX3 in forest green. That thing was indestructible. I did some dumb shit in that car. I handed that
How old were you when you had that?
16, 17. That's when we first
Doesn't
got...
do dumb shit in their
No,
car
right?
at 16, 17.
There's some dumb shit in that Cavalier, boy, let me tell you.
I could not get that thing to die, though. No matter what I did to it. It just...
Give it to me. I got you.
Fair enough. See, I gave that to my mom when she was going through a rough time. And then had a Mazda 6 that my dad had put a 2009 Ford Fusion motor in, because that was at the time that Ford and Mazda were same.
Was it the same motor or?
I think it was just based off the same platform. You didn't have to do any like crazy, find an ECU stuff or anything like that.
Right. Mazda hasn't made their own cars in a while because they're in bed with Toyota now.
But yeah, that wasn't a bad car. It was. It's not like what I own now, but for what it was pretty fun. After that, I picked up the 90 Miata, which that was probably my worst purchase. That thing was falling apart faster than I could fix it.
Which is why Boots took it.
I put 3 slave cylinders in that fucking car.
And that was after I put one in there.
So you're like a slave trader now?
Oh.
Woo, Jesus Christ.
God,
Good
man, Boots, I
heavens.
know you're from Georgia, but breathe, man. It's
See, after that, what did I pick up next? No, I picked up the 330i after that. And that
What
started
about this 330i?
This longest owned vehicle I've had. Still have it. Still on jack stands. Kidding. It's not on jack stands, but it's down right now.
What year is it?
2003.
Have you calculated out like a percentage of how long it's been down versus how long you've owned it?
No,
can't
I don't
speak
want
on
to.
this topic.
It's the same thing with like how much I put into it, because I bought the car for $3,500, which was a pretty good steal for what it was at the time. I mean, I guess it is still now because even now E46 prices are kind of climbing. But yeah, I got that thing for a steal. So like the previous owner was a Mercedes guy, and I guess his wife told him is like, you got to get rid of one of the vehicles. And of course, him being a Mercedes guy was like, yeah, BMW, bye. So I drove in the Miata all the way down to Orlando, Florida, and scooped that. Worried the whole time that the Miata wasn't going to make it back.
Fuck it, just leave it.
That I was literally at that point. I was like, "Yo, if this thing breaks down, I'm taking the BMW back, and I'll just rent a truck and a trailer and come get the Miata another day." But
just leave it.
I want to. I wanted to at the time.
Take a picture, post it, and say, "Hey, if you want it, you cash out me this much, and I'll mail you the keys."
$3 and a pizza, and I would have sold the damn thing.
Fuck, nowadays a pizza
Keys are
$40.
right. Keys are already in the ignition.
Yeah, right. Good luck getting it
Up,
home.
down, and everything. It just rained that day.
Yeah, good luck.
So I still have the 330i now. After that, I want to say I picked up my, at the time of this, Ford Explorer Sport 5-speed. I paid, I think, 35 or 45 for that.
That thing drove like a fucking boat.
Yeah, it really did, but it was also another indestructible. I beat the shit out of that too.
Seems like a recurring theme with everybody.
So yeah, I had those two for a while, and then a friend of mine hit me up about an M3. It's a 2000. What year was that? 2002 M3 for sale. The guy had no idea what was wrong with it. So naturally, I'm like, hey, what are the symptoms? What's it doing? He's like, oh, it's just making a clicking noise. And his first, I don't know who his mechanic is. I don't even want to know. But according to him, he said his mechanic was like, oh, it's the ignition cylinder. That's the problem. I'm like, never in all my years of working on BMWs have I heard of the ignition going bad. So I'm like, okay, odd, but I'll go take a look at it. So I went with Craig and I told him, I was like, man, I think it's the starter. It's like, if it's making a clicking noise, it's probably the starter. The solenoid's not hitting, and that's all it needs. It's like, if you hear a click come from the engine bay, you don't say a fucking thing, because I'm about to play this. Sure enough, I'm like, all right, I want to see if this thing runs. Click. I'm like, yes. So I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know what the hell's wrong with it, but I'll take it. We ended up doing, I think it was $1,800 cash, and I traded my Ford Explorer Sport for it. So it was like, I don't know, $5,000 cash value. And granted, at the time, M3s were still going for 10 to 12 based on condition. So I basically robbed this dude of the M3.
I'm curious if like his mechanic told him that it was like an ignition system problem, and he just automatically assumed cylinder
took it and
something
ran
like
with
that.
it. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, yeah, because his mechanic was probably trying to rake him for $2,500 to change the starter.
Yeah.
Oh, it
That
took
wouldn't
a lot, but we got it figured out.
In all fairness, the starter on that car is a fucking pain in the ass.
Oh, is it really? Oh, well, yeah, y'all had to switch it.
You got
it's on the bottom
room between the firewall.
Yeah, it's back up against the firewall.
Yeah. Even my small hands, I'm sitting here with a wrench trying to get this thing out. I'm like, yo, it's almost better to just pull the motor out and then do it. But I changed the starter, got it running 2 weeks, and then I don't remember what happened with the 330i. I think, was it that scenario where the jack came down too fast and the hood slammed down on that funnel?
No, that was plenty before that. Not like plenty before that, because you only owned the car for a few weeks, but it was probably about a week or two before that. I think you just woke up one day and you were just like, fuck it. Oh, no, you had those spacers holding together your, was it the Vanos system or?
Oh, yeah, I was having Vanos problems.
Yeah.
Fuck that system.
Yeah, man. Yeah. You're telling me, dude. And
yeah, you were having the issues with Vanos. And so you were just like, instead of rebuilding it, I plan on doing the swap anyways.
Yeah. So yeah, I tore apart the M3, swapped all the good bits into the 330i, and now that's where the 330i is at.
And raped somebody else for the M3 shell.
Yeah, I think I sold the M3 shell for what was it, 2 or 3K?
2,500.
Oh, was it 2,500? Yeah.
So you made back almost half of what you paid for it,
and
essentially.
Like, even now the S54, the motor alone in a long block is like 5,000, 6,000.
Right.
Like they're just getting hard to find. And yeah, made a bit of money back there, but the 330 I made sure to rob me of all that later.
The dude wanted it though. He came all the way from Tennessee, North Tennessee, for it.
Oh yeah,
for the shell.
What was he going to do with it?
I think
he had a wrecked M3.
Yeah, he was going to swap all his good bits over to that clean body.
Yeah, he had an M3 that he wrecked on a mountain run. So he was just going to swap the motor and drivetrain into the clean body, because the body on that M3 was real clean. The interior was trashed on it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, the interior was absolutely trashed, and like anything driveline related, all the bushings, all suspension, like all that stuff was totally wrecked.
But the body was
the body was really. I was impressed at how well that held together.
Because I hit a back corner portion of it with the dual action and some polish and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Pissed off Will because he was like, God damn it, now I got to look at that one spot.
I was like, this is what it could have been.
Brother. Yeah, there wasn't any dents. There was no deep scratches. And I brought out like that back. I did like a little, 4x4 square. I just wanted to see what it looked like.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the body was immaculate on it. Like I said, no dents, no deep scratches, nothing. All the body panels lined up and everything.
What a shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, so pretty much this asshole just took a perfectly good M3 and ruined it.
Yep. Sue me. Let's see. After that, I bought an X5 off my dad.
Wait, why didn't you just sell the 330 and put money into fixing the M3 and then keeping the M3?
Age-old question he gets every fucking time.
I get that all the time because I wanted a sedan.
Everyone asks it.
I wanted a sedan. Like that was
why
my
you don't
thing.
get no.
So yeah.
Huh?
He wants 2 more window actuators to go out.
Yeah. You don't get no bitches and you ain't got kids, bro. I'd have kept the old coupe.
So for E46, they never brought a sedan to the States. Or I don't even know if they made one over in Europe. I think there was a prototype of a sedan.
No, I don't even think that.
But
I think they made the prototype wagon, and that was it.
I was gonna say I know that there's a sneaky link.
Wagon.
But they never had a sedan, so essentially he wanted to make his own M3 sedan.
Yeah. And I mean, like the amount of money it would have cost me to get that interior straight, and then just about everything under that car, it would have almost been worth it just to stick it in the 330 to begin with.
Those seats alone, bro. Those seats, like, you'd sit down and it was like the leather was poking you in the booty hole. That's how bad those seats were ripped up.
Headliner was falling down.
But
like
you put
all the plastic
aftermarket
pieces
seats in your 330, so who cares?
I mean, yeah, but all the other interior pieces. Well, I guess I changed all those to black too, so I can't really say anything.
I know there's a fuckboy tax, but to find coupe parts versus a sedan parts, but
to sum it up, there's very, very little. There's probably a handful of nuts and bolts on that car that have not been touched.
I mean, I had to change everything over: fuel pump, rear end as a whole, transmission, motor, obviously. Like we redid,
and hell, a lot of the guys will run. Especially when you get too big a power on the E46 M3s, they get the E39 M5 S-ends to put in there because they take a little bit more of a beating.
Well, it's not even like I wouldn't even worry about that because you got to worry about the subframe tearing the frame apart. Because that's that's the common fail point on the E46 is it's the sheet metal that the rear subframe mounts to. It after so many miles and so many years of being used, it literally starts to bend and fold before it becomes too weak and then cracks. I think even the 330i had a crack in it, and I had to get it welded up.
And you know what the solution is from BMW?
Foam. Gotta love it. Let's just stick some foam in between that space so it doesn't bend.
Their solution is give you a can of foam to fill in that space.
Jesus. So, it seems like an easy fix to drop the subframe, weld in some bar stock over the mounting points and cage it up and then re-bolt and
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Essentially, there's probably about 3 or 4 companies that have cornered that market, and they sell a whole kit. What is that one that you're looking at? They do like a whole
CMP.
stage 3 kit.
Yeah, CMP.
CMP. They have a whole stage 3 kit where they've got a rear end brace that welds in.
And the subframe
into your
literally
trunk.
mounts to that instead of any part
Just
of
the Sony
that
can.
body. Like
yeah.
they weld it to the either side of the frame, and it's just like you said, it's just a big ass piece of bar stock basically, and then mount to that. And then you can tie in like you tie in the rear
that's
$500
as well.
for that kit.
It's actually
right about,
yeah. For all the stuff, it's not too bad. It's labor that's going to kill you.
Yeah, if you can't weld, yeah.
Right.
Which I mean, I've done stick welding, but I haven't done MIG or TIG, so I don't.
Yikes.
Yeah, essentially for like, if you're just looking for like a nice daily and like an E46, there's companies that sell just plates that you can weld in, and they're like, 1.25" steel that you kind of weld into where the prone cracking spots are.
And that's what I have in there now, but
right.
I just don't really.
But
trust it.
if you're looking for like a little bit more power out of it, or like his instance where he's got the bigger motor in there and whatnot, or the more powerful motor from the M3 and whatnot, then you're going to want a little bit something more.
Yeah.
But if you plan on keeping it stock and just having a nice clean daily, I see no issues with those plates.
Yeah. But
unless you're me and you send it sideways on every corner.
Wow.
That's what it's for.
With DSC not working right now, yeah.
So
good shit.
Well, I guess no, I did get DSC working. Now it's not working like I wanted to.
Right, you can't turn it off.
Yeah.
We were having opposite issues. Mine wouldn't turn, like I wouldn't be able to turn my DSC on, but he wouldn't be able to turn his off.
So on the non-M's, at least for I think it's the Mark 46 DSC systems, you can press a button once and it turns off.
That's the ECU code number.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, that's the ECU code number.
Well, it's for the ABS DSC module.
Right, but that number aligns with your
the MS
DM.
For you, I think it's MS 45.1.
Yes, and that aligns with your ECU or DME as it's called in the BMW world.
So on the non-M's, you can press it once and it turns off DSC partially. But you can press and hold it as well, and that it'll show your brake pad light. Normally it's just the yellow brake light. It'll show that as well as DSC off, and that turns off all assists for DSC. Unfortunately, mine currently is almost acting like it's only doing the first stage, because the M3, when you turn it off, when you press it once, it should turn everything off, but it's not doing that. And I'm not sure if it's because I'm still using the 330i ABS DSC module and not an M3 one. But I have to.
I never thought about that.
I just thought about it. So
I've never thought about that.
I've been thinking about it. No, I just thought about that. That might be why.
Because you have no idea, Jeremy. Him and I have been wrapping our minds around this for what? You've had that swap done for 2 years now, give or take?
Yeah, I think I just popped up on Facebook Memories for 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years, give or take, and we've been fighting this issue for the last 2 years, trying to figure out why his DSC won't fully turn off. Because the first stage will let you play a little bit, but then once it feels that you kick a little too loose,
it's just like nope.
Snaps back in and
no, it cuts all power. All power.
It's such a bummer too, because it doesn't do like what a lot of traction control systems do, where it just breaks whatever wheel is spinning. Mm-hmm. No, this thing cuts power drastically. I mean, you're talking like you've got your foot to the floor and you're like, man, I feel like I'm driving a 3-cylinder right now. Until it finally realizes like, okay, you're good.
So he used to sit there and say like, oh no, it cuts all power. And I was like, no, I've never heard of that. Like,
right.
And I didn't believe him for the longest time until I bought an E46 and then I've kind of messed around with it. And yeah, it does it cuts all fucking power, man. You hit that corner and you think you're going to go sideways and then your car just falls flat on its face.
Yeah.
Ew. What the fuck?
It's nasty, man. It sucks.
It's like the Atlas when you hit 70 miles an hour.
Yeah, just fucking.
Yeah, that's essentially, dude. It dies. And that's almost what it feels like. It feels like your car just cut off on you.
Yeah.
That's the best way for me to explain it.
Well, speaking
What about
of
you
so
guys?
yeah.
What
boring,
cars have you had?
underwhelming. Yes. Well, speaking of boring, underwhelming Momobiles, have I got a story for you?
What's that first car, big dog? What you got?
My first car was a '89 Jeep XJ.
Ooh,
Yeah,
it's not a bad first car.
yeah,
Right.
not at all. I bought it from a buddy of mine, and it was like $1,500. And
Yeah, that's a steal. Especially it's like if you look at today's market and what those XJs are going for.
Oh, yeah.
Because those XJs are highly sought after.
well, yeah, it was a pre '91 or pre '92, I think, is when they came out with the high output 4-liter, which was a big game changer for those guys. But it's the same thing. I mean, the fucker, you can still lock the front end up and spin all 4 of them. You know what I mean? On bald
Well,
tires.
what rear end did you have in that one?
What factory? I couldn't afford it. I was 16, man. I
Well,
couldn't afford to do anything.
No, there's a multiple. I was just asking because there's multiple rear ends that came from the factory in that, depending on what.
Yeah, it was cool, man. It was my little shaggin' wagon, and I definitely went out and played and got stuck and learned how to get stuck and learned how to get unstuck and that fucking thing. I remember I was taking my siblings to school one morning and totally high centered in this fucking lot because we lived out in the fucking middle of nowhere, so I had to like cross this fucking like construction site and then cross this like it was a dry creek bed. And when I went up the other side where all the other people in the neighborhood had like cut the fence open and ripped it back so that everybody could pass through right there. Apparently, I don't know what the fuck happened, but it was all soft as shit. And I got to the top and sunk and just fucking, my front wheels went over the lip and I just sat there. I was stuck.
You didn't stay in the throttle.
No, I was sinking, and I had like whatever bald fucking all-terrains and shit, and realistically, and it's pretty steep, so it's not one of them things where you want to fucking hit it too damn hard, you know, because it's one of the things where you get up, get going, and then you kind of pedal your way out of it.
No,
And
send it for Dale.
So
Send it for Dale.
yeah. So, dude, it was fucking the worst part about that whole story is I had to call my stepmom and be like, hey, look, you know where I crossed the creek bed? I said, I'm still here. The kids ain't going to school today. And she was like, all right, it's fine. So she gets up, takes her time, gets her coffee, gets her going, and she comes out. My dad's got an Excursion on 37s. Literally, she chained it up and put it in reverse and just took her foot off the brake. And there I go, bam, get snatched off the hill and go backwards. So anyway, yeah, that was fun. It ended up, I had the same problems everybody has with those giant 4 liters and a tiny little engine bay. And in Phoenix, Arizona, the fucker just there's wasn't enough you could do to make it not overheat, you know. And I'm sure I twisted the head off the fucking thing and everything else. So
I'm excited to take these dudes out to Phoenix because, like, you know, the South kind of like prides themselves on off-roading, but y'all ain't seen no off-roading
not
like
yet.
you do
I
out,
was
out in the desert.
I was actually thinking about that just a couple of days ago. Like, nobody else in the car club in Augusta has any kind of like off-road or even anything other than just street cars. And so, shut up, Boots. Your gay ass truck is a street car. So anyway,
Oh, I know. I got it for that purpose. What are you talking about?
it has
would
the
love to
same
take
ground
to
clearance
Tacoma,
as
man.
fucking Will's BMW, so it's fine. But I thought to myself, man, once you guys get out to Arizona, like, I'm excited to hear hey, man, I think I'm going to get some dirt bikes. Or, hey, man, you guys want to pitch? We're going to buy this boat from my creepy Uncle Pervy, and then we're going to fix it up and take it out. You know what I mean? Like, man, jet boats, fucking AT side-by-sides, like, dude.
One of the big things I want to do with both of them is once we get out there is scoop that $500 fucking taco to Tacoma.
If you can find one.
And throw a $1,500, you know, cheap ass long suspension travel kit on it. Find a $500 LS, throw the LS in there, and just take them out to like Ocotillo Wells,
Yep.
out there in California, right before you hit the
Yep.
border, and put some paddles on that thing and just let them rip.
Oh, dude, it's a blast. It's a blast. So that's actually my dad had an old like Gen 3 taco, and it was long armed. It had a glass bed on it. It was fully caged out. It still had the little Toyota block in it, but man, we used to take the old Senator's Highway where you would take the 17 up to like Black Canyon City, and then
Yep.
that dirt road that would take you all the way around through like Wickenburg and all in through there, and then it would spit you out like right out by Prescott Valley. It takes like
Yeah, it would
5
take you up
hours.
through like
Yeah.
what is it? Crown
King.
Crown King and all that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm familiar with that area because for me, I'm from up there in that
Yeah,
Anthem Desert Hills area,
Uh-huh.
so I'm familiar. Like Crown King, and
Crown
you stop
King was
anywhere
cool,
up there
man.
and
That
just
little bar and the fucking. I remember we used to
Yeah.
go up there, and there was this dude who would go up, and it was like a one man band, and his dog would sing. She'd be howling in the background
Yeah.
while he's up there,
Yep.
like.
it,
And he'd
it
have
was one of
like
those hound dogs.
the like a drum and a cymbal on his feet, and he's got a harmonica and a guitar and a hat that's got bells on
Yeah.
it, and he would ching chicka wonk chicka and he would be up there.
Bro, you laugh, you guys laugh, but like it's great. It's wholesome
It
because
is
like,
badass.
and then the
I
whole
sat
time,
there all day.
yeah,
My dad
and the whole
used to
time
get-
his hound is just
just
That's
singing
cute.
along
I
the
can't even
side.
lie, that's cute.
And my
Yeah.
dad, that bar would serve these fucking Bloody Marys that had like fucking the like chocolate covered bacon strips and asparagus and like fresh green beans, and they would also take like a sun tea jar and just jam that bitch to the brim with like hot peppers and stuff, and then fill it up with vodka, and then they would let it infuse out on the front porch for a day and a half, and then make Bloody Marys with that. Before
Okay.
Absolute came out with the Pepar or Pepar fucking vodka. That's how the old schools did it, bro. They just made their own pepper infused
Bro,
vodka, but
and those peppers though, bro, they were almost like liquor pickled peppers.
by the time they were done, and then they would
Yeah.
dissolve to mush. Fuck, the better you got.
Yeah.
The closer to the bottom you got,
Right.
the better it was. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, I turned wrenches on that, and my grandpa is an old rancher, and they're all from Nebraska, so they were a fix it before you buy it type of thing. Even if the latch on the gate broke, and the Ace Hardware had one for $4, he would rather find that old piece of rebar laying around and fold it up in the vise and go bolt it to the gate before he ever bought a new one. So I don't know, man. I just kind of grew up with that mentality, and so anyway, the Jeep eventually blew up. I had a bunch of beaters in between. I got my first Bug. It was a 74 Standard. Ugh, gross. I didn't know any better, man. I had
Nobody likes a fat bitch.
Nobody does. So yeah, and then after that, man, I did a lot of stupid shit in my early 20s, and I still do stupid shit now, but I would think I had the money, and I would buy a project and I'd tinker on it for a couple of months and then sell it. Or I would I had this Mark II GTI. It was badass. I drove it. I think I drove it like a total of like 10 times. And I lost my job at some dead end fucking place, and then the insurance lapsed, and then so I had that for like maybe 5 months. And then I had just all kinds of different shit, and mostly fixing cars out of necessity because fucking life sucked, man. This wasn't like I had a cool project car when I was 20. I just fixing shit out of necessity. So then
You just had the daily. That was it.
yeah, pretty much. And then so yeah, I've owned a whole plethora of little Toyotas and anything you could think of, whatever I can get my hands on for cheap type of thing. And then I bought my Mark 6. Had a Mark 6 GLI. Nothing wild and over
That
the top.
fucking thing.
Tune.
And then you were still
H3.
fixing things out of necessity.
Yeah, at that point, yeah. Well, I melted the clutch, like melted it. It was completely fused to the pressure plate. It was fucking. I mean, I melted the clutch on that, and when it was in the shop, very, very highly specialized, reputable shop there in Augusta, Georgia. They forgot to disconnect part of the ECU harness when they dropped the transmission out to do the clutch on it. And they ended up breaking some wires in the loom. And obviously I didn't know that. And when they put it all back together, they were, frayed but back together. And it didn't break anything on the loom. It didn't even break any clips. So there was like no evidence of damage.
Oh, okay.
Until
I thought it was going to be like
left,
obvious.
No, and then when I turned left real hard, all of a sudden, I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? It was intermittent, and then after a while, it was permanent. Up to that point, anybody who's owned a TSI motor knows that they eat up coil packs like a fat bitch in a tube of Pringles, boy. Like they're fucking gone, boy. Any chance they get, swipe, go ahead and get them another one. So I kept a box of fucking coil packs in the trunk because it never failed. I kept my fucking OBD2 reader on me, and it would eat up a damn coil pack and go up cylinder 3, boom, done, fire up and go. So eventually it was permanent. It wouldn't run at all. It was giving me, lean injector. That's what it was. So I, of course, went through, swapped around, changing injectors on it. Did a carbon cleaning because, those TSI motors suck, which was easier than I thought it was going to be to just pull all that shit apart, scrape it out, put it back in. I did that probably 2 or 3 times.
Hold the goddamn light, Rodney.
Yeah. So,
no, right here, motherfucker.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad, but I eventually tracked it down because that was a little under a year of it just
right
sitting in my driveway and making a $500 car payment. Like,
right around
and we tracked down like faulty ECU issues because there was not all the mechanical parts were good. And while it was sitting still, I had perfect continuity across all the wires in the loom. But it didn't work. It fucking nuked it. I had to get a whole new ECU, get it retuned, get all that kind of shit getting going with it, and it wouldn't do it. And then eventually, I forget, like hell, you guys just a little bit ago, you have one of those aha moments, and you're like, you know what? It's a fucking paperweight, so I'm just gonna razor blade that loom open. It's got to be. If it isn't the ECU and it isn't any other components, it's got to be the thing that connects the components to the ECU. And so, ripped everything a fucking apart. And there it was, one itty bitty little tear on one wire. Fucking Harbor Freighted that bitch back together with some bubble gum and duct tape because I just wanted to see if the fucker would run. And I was so mad. I was fucking livid. And of course, my PP Vice at the time had all kinds of stupid shit to say. And so,
sure enough, always has some shit to say.
Dude. And so, sure enough, fired right up. I was so fucking mad. I got rid of it. At that point, I had owned, over a dozen Volkswagens, mostly air-cooled. Oh, I forgot. The Mark IV was in there somewhere. While the Mark VI was down, I scooped the Mark IV TDI, which to this day is one of my favorite cars I've ever owned. I don't know why. It's butt fucking ugly. It drove like shit. It handled like shit. It braked like shit.
Smelled like crayons.
Smelled like it did at first, but I swapped most of the interior out on that to go all black. I had GLI Recaros in it. Like it was a great. I fucking loved it.
I would give me the OG seats, but I ended up scooping
Zebra,
the all leather black seats and door guards.
Yeah, because I traded
Zebra strapped the fuck out of the hood.
Oh yeah. Anyway, hey, we were experimenting. We were learning some shit that day, but whatever.
He rattle cans this shit. Mind you, it's probably midnight at night when we finish it.
Oh yeah,
right around there. We were drinking. It's probably midnight at night, bro. Lighting is shit. We're in his
It
front
looked
patio.
killer.
The only light we're
Well, that
using,
looked good.
the only light we're using is the two lights on the front of his garage door. And he's like, "Oh fuck yeah, that looks good." So I, go back over there the next day to check it out, and I was like, "Oh, I want to see how this actually turned out, like in sunlight," because it. To his defense, it looked fucking baller at nighttime. Go back over there midday, bro. It's just tire striped
Bro,
to shit.
bad.
And we had already cleared it, sanded it.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
done all that.
Dumbass.
So he just left.
It was already like sun faded and oxidized to hell, and I put a badgeless on it, so I did the little notch fill and puttied over it, and then was gonna respray it. Yeah, it was a 150-mile looker. It was good.
150 mile.
Yeah, it was bad. And so then, I got rid of that. I decided to get out of the VW game for a little bit. I bought a 19 Accord Sport with a 2-liter, and that car was
that
fun,
was that when the Accords started looking really nice? Or
Yeah, that's the most.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
J37 and put in
The
case
current
on it.
model.
okay.
Correct. Yeah. J35, not J37, but yeah.
I thought they went
It's a 3.5 liter. I don't mean to be a dick here, but they were going to call it a 35, not a 37. It's a J35. Yeah.
I just could have sworn they had like a 3.7 there somewhere.
No, not from Honda. But anyway, that was a fun car, but it was also like my first newer car that wasn't a Euro. And I just couldn't get over how fucking like cheap everything felt. Like all the plastics had some squish and give to it. It just, I don't know. You guys know. It just didn't feel like a Euro. It didn't have that nice thud when you close the door. Like, but anyway, I drove that for about a year and a half and had a 17 F-150 in there and a couple other little things peppered in. And then I eventually bought a 15 Touareg because I got tired of having a car and I'm still in the Army and still moving, and I wanted something more utilitarian. I wanted to start like camping and going on trips and having fun, having a car I could use, not something I needed to tiptoe over fucking speed bumps. Because my Accord was lowered and all the ground effects and fucking all the fuckboy cool kid parts and shit. And I was over it. So I bought my Touareg and that wasn't big enough. So then it has a 3-inch lift, the subframe drop, 33s, 20-inch rotiforms, custom roof rack, custom skid plates, like $6,000 in audio, everything you could think of, basically a bunch of fucking retarded lights that don't do anything.
Are they hooked up?
Oh yeah, and they're all. So I use what's called a trigger system. So it's basically an RF module that you wire to the battery under the hood.
Okay.
So that way, all of your external accessories just get routed to the engine bay, and then it's wireless from there.
Okay.
So you don't have to, like the old school guys would have to like puncture a hole in the bulkhead in the roof of the truck to run wiring to have it come down in. So that way it's switchable inside, but then they had a 12 volt that you had to fucking tallywhacker through the firewall and do all that shit. And you don't have to do any of that stuff anymore. Granted, this system is way too expensive, but it's cool. And then there's an app for it too. So even if the battery on the controller dies while you're out and about, you just Bluetooth to the fucking module, and then you can control all your lights. And it's not just lights. You can have like one of them. Mine's a 6-channel, so you could have like winch in, winch out, okay. And then lights or whatever. It doesn't matter. So yeah, it's a pretty cool system. They work, but they're not like, I don't know, man. It's a toy, and it does exactly what I built it to do, which is allow me to go play, allow me to go camping. If I hit some decent trails or some water crossings, I'm going to have a great fucking time. It's never going to do what a solid axle fucking Jeep is going to do. And I knew that going in, and I had no intention of doing that shit anyway, because it's still my overpriced daily. I'm not out fucking beating the life out of my fucking daily driver either. But
See, the difference between you and me is I would take a slammed Benz and go do that.
no, you fucking wouldn't. Like, you're so full of shit.
He's done it.
Bro, I have pictures. He's seen it. He's seen the
Being
pictures.
on a dirt road is not the same.
No, like it was like a dirt road like this that was like crowned, and I'm pretty sure that whoever the new owner is probably still pulling out rocks and pebbles from the fucking subframe
Where was
and
that?
everything
Why?
else. So that was
See
we
what
were
happened
going
was.
to. What happened was we were going to one of Miriam's family members who lives out in Appling, which is the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's literally the middle too, about central.
Yeah. So I was like, well, what, like, she's like, well, they live on a dirt road. And I was like, oh, is it like fine for my car? And for back reference, this is a 2015 Mercedes C300 that is an inch and a half, 2 inches from the ground all around.
No.
Probably one of the lowest static Mercedes that was around at the time. And she goes, yeah, it should be fine. They, fuck, I can't think of it. What is it where you
Grade
take like the gate, they grade it?
Mm.
And I was like, oh, okay, well, it's whatever. When we get there, we were going there, her aunt and her uncle, we were going there for like a birthday party or whatnot. And I start driving down this road, and it's fine at the beginning, but about halfway down this mile-long dirt road, it's starting to look like this, run off. And all you hear is just...
Ow.
And I kept going for about another half mile before we got to their house and pulled in and then had to leave back out and do the same thing.
Jesus.
At the end of the day, I didn't really care. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. And that's the life you live when you dedicate your lifestyle to having a low
life car.
That low of a car. I mean, even nowadays, my cars, I still lower all my cars. Even my wife's car, I had to lower.
Is it?
Yeah.
Barely.
The jet is lowered?
Yeah, you sent the springs for it.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's just lowering springs, but everything I own has got to be
nuzzle it
lowered.
down a little bit,
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I love lifted trucks and shit like that too, but the lifted trucks are, I do a little bit different when I go lifted, and especially in the wheel and tire setup. You're rocking 20s. My dumbass probably would have rocked 16s with Schmeat.
I would have loved to. So there isn't a ton of options in a 5130 bolt pattern.
Right.
If I could have found like a dope set of wheels in an 18, because remember, I'm still rocking 18Z brakes. So 18s are
the minimum you can do.
Yeah, I mean, you can rock a 17,
Well,
but it's like,
yeah,
they go over it.
You know what I found out is actually 12 millimeters. If you can shave 12 millimeters off of your caliper, the top side,
Oh, really?
you can run a 17. And that was from my research of like I was talking about my current car, the E46. I plan on running those 17Zs from the Porsche.
Mm-hmm.
And my current wheel setup is a 17. And for me to run a 17, I have to shave about 12 millimeters off of that caliper, the top side of it.
For a 17Z?
Yes. To fit 17s on a 17Z. Even 17Zs are 18 minimum.
Let me take a look, because I think Mike did that from Eurowise. I think one of the base model Cayennes he had that has the 17Z brakes, they're out of Charleston, so it's all mud territory out there. You're either crawling or mud, and so with mud,
I'm pretty sure he shaved.
Did he though?
Pretty sure he shaved
if I
them.
find the post, I'll send it to you. But I think he was running,
Yeah.
and don't quote me. I want to say he ran a 16-inch steel wheel over them. But I'll show you. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But
yeah, I
I was gonna
I
say,
highly doubt because
they're
they're
just as
fucking.
big
Those
as the
brakes are
135.
like this fucking big, dude. Like
Yeah.
I was gonna say they're just as big
monstrous.
as the 135 eye brakes.
yeah.
That I
Well,
have, and
for
they're
reference
massive.
for anybody who's listening and doesn't really know, a 17Z is a 6-pot Brembo brake. And if you've never seen a 6-pot Brembo brake, no, it's 6-pot for the fronts.
Mine are 18Zs and they're only 4-pot.
They're
The
6-pot
caliper still
Brembos.
looks like a fucking hoagie. Like it fucking.
They're 6-pot Brembos.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah. All right. Maybe I'm wrong. They don't. They only look
Um,
like a 4-pot, but I'll have to go back and look.
Yeah,
I don't care that much. You get it.
Yeah. But in order to run it, it's 18 minimum, or you can run it with a 17 and shave about 12 millimeters off of the top of that caliper.
Yeah. Well, my goal is to, and it's going to take. Remember, this is a monocoque. It's not a frame on, body on frame design on the Touaregs and Cayennes and Q7s. So I have to do a little bit of rocker panel surgery. Both of my bumpers are already cut. 6 inches in the front and almost 8 inches off the back.
What do they call that when they cut like into the? I know it's mostly in trucks. I'm trying to think of the term.
Yeah, it's the frame horn. You basically completely shave and then you cut back another probably 2 or 3 inches into the frame horn, and then you weld
from like the rocker panel in the back side of the fender, and
Right,
then also into like the frame and all that stuff. You kind of shave it so you can run a bigger offset.
And
or
we're
whatnot. I
lucky
know a
in
lot
this
of the-
platform. In this platform, we actually have 2 to 3 inches where you can completely cut all that bullshit
we
out of the
do.
way, and it doesn't.
That's about all I got too.
It doesn't start affecting the footwell. That's the problem with
Right.
the tacos and the Forerunner guys have is there's a fucking body mount right there in that corner. So in order to shave it, you have to like reconstruct that body mount, and then that's why you don't ever see like fucking the newest generations, I think 5th gen tacos and Forerunners on 35s, and if you do, it's a rarity. They might look like 35s, but it's a metric version of a 33 or a 34-inch tire. They just
Challenge
if we're being
accepted.
if we're being
Time to get my new taco on 35s.
if we're being completely honest,
every
though,
taco
if
you've
you
ever
go
seen
with-
only got 3 inches. So.
if we're being completely honest, though, like if you go with like the TRD Pros and stuff like that, honestly, from the factory, that is a more than capable vehicle to do
Give or take.
whatever you need.
It depends on what you want to do. My goal is to eventually run a 35. The Cayennes are shaped a little different.
I was gonna say, isn't it easier on the Cayenne platform?
Yeah, it's just the shape of the wheel well. The fenders are different. I don't know what it is, but they seem to be running 35s all day long. And I know 3 guys that run Touaregs, that run 35s, and they're all the first gen Touareg. They're not what I have.
Right.
So my goal is to be the first 7P second gen Touareg.
And I
on
believe
35s.
that first gen Touareg had a little bit bigger wheel wells, if I'm not mistaken. It was shaped completely different from the Gen 2 and 3. It was kind of more of a boxy shape than a rounded shape.
Yeah, it's weird. And but even the one guy that I've talked to with the first gen Touareg that
and is that the dude down in Australia?
No,
you know what I'm talking
Middle
about.
Eastern dudes do a bunch of shit, so they probably exist. We just don't see it because they're big. Like this car was manufactured in Czechoslovakia. Like the Eastern Europeans would beat the fuck out of these Touaregs and run them in the sand all day. But I want to run 35s. My bumpers are cut. Mike from Eurowise claims you can do this with a 3-inch lift. I don't see how. I'm running a 33 now, and it's metric, so it's like a 32.8 by like 12. It's not even a full 12 and a half inch tire. It might even be into the 11s. I don't know how you're fucking doing it. I just don't. I'm hoping that I can get a
Yeah.
contract out in Charleston and actually put my eyes on that shit and see how the fuck he does it. I know that he works with JRZ suspension, and they build custom coilovers for the platform. Bilstein and Fox build custom coilovers for the platform, but most of those gives you the same ish 2 to 3 inches of lift, but just with all the adjustability, and it's an actual lift versus just a puck lift.
Right.
Which
And I
isn't
was going to
bad,
say,
but it's fucking every once in a while it'll fucking get your
yeah.
ass, you know.
No, I was going to say, even in the shit, what has it been? 3-4 years since I've owned a Touareg. They've come leaps and bounds, because when I was, when I owned the Touareg, the only thing that was available was the pucks that you would put in. They developed the coilover system for airbag for people who had the factory air system.
Uh-huh.
But for people who had the standard coilover
Steel
suspension,
spring, yeah.
there wasn't a coilover option to lift it higher. You
No,
only
it's
had
just been.
pucks.
It would have been right at this like early 2020. He
Yeah.
had those commissioned, and even then, when you order them, you're on like a 4-month build wait.
Right.
They're literally custom built for your platform. And then with the
Right.
JRZs, fuck, the JRZs are like $5,000, but they're like 1,000 way adjustable. Like they're meant for you to go 100 miles an hour through the desert. Like they're fucking
Yeah,
but it's the only way to get.
5,000.
It's the only way to get 4 or 5 inches of lift, man. 5 inches of lift is massive on this platform.
it's more than I got.
You know what I'm saying? 5 inches of lift and custom trailing arm or adjustable trailing arms, because as you guys pointed out, it's just a 3-inch puck puts the suspension
A lot of tension.
at the absolute limits of what's even alignable. So I need tubular, and he makes them. I just don't have the money for them yet. But tubular upper control arms that account for the camber, toe arms in the rear. He makes a full set. I think I put it in the chat, but he makes a full set of like CNC trailing arms for the ass end with the heim joints on the end, and then they're left and right threaded. So all you have to do is twist the bar, you know what I'm saying, to actually align it. And then they're so much longer, so you got better travel and all that good shit. And so, but anyway, I digress. It's mostly just a mobile, but the fucking thing, man, I know it's cool. I know it's different. Lifted SUVs aren't crazy popular, but most of the ones you see are Grand Cherokees, 4Runners, of course. There's 100 in every parking lot.
Right.
But this thing absolutely fucking breaks necks everywhere.
Well, I'll go ahead and run through my car background real quick. Essentially, I was that kid that you saw in pictures of air-cooleds.
Yeah.
Hanging out the driver's side window. That was me. I grew up in the air-cooled scene, and then, moved back and forth between California, Arizona a lot. So Fast and the Furious in the early 2000s and shit like that. I lived that lifestyle, man. I was out there doing that shit in the car scene and stuff like that, going to those, 2 a.m. races in Los Angeles and shit like that, which kind of really rooted myself in Euros for me, mostly, because, it was always... it was always the JDM versus Euros, and you kind of had to choose a side.
Where was the American guys?
And for me, they were at the track, man. I mean, they were still running in the streets, but those guys are on a different level. You know what I'm saying? When you're running, when you talk about American guys in California, Arizona, we want to throw in Texas, New York, Florida. These American dudes are pushing 1,500 horsepower. Back then, it was probably like 1,000 horsepower. And if you're not playing with that, go home. And to be honest with you, a majority of society can't afford to build something like that.
That's still,
if we're being quite frank. Yeah, it's still that way. You can't, if you can, afford $100,000 setup, then cool. That's, But most of us kids were out there running our Civics and Jettas against each other. When you kind of aligned yourself, as you saw on Fast and the Furious, you kind of aligned yourself with either a JDM side or a Euro side. And, growing up in the air cooleds and whatnot, I kind of aligned myself with the Euro side. If I haven't owned it, I've worked on it.
100%.
When it comes to Euros.
Yep.
And these guys here can attest. I've probably touched or given some kind of advice on at least one of their vehicles.
Yeah. Shoot, the 330i, we spent the last
Right.
month back to back every day working on it to get it up and running again.
And that was even something that at that time in my life I had never really messed with a BMW, so that was a whole new learning curve to me. And Will has taught me a lot about them, so props to that. I'm really I enjoy learning about it. But I've owned probably every generation of Volkswagen. Volkswagen kid at heart, will always be a Volkswagen kid at heart. But I've recently branched.
I love Volkswagen.
I mean, at the end of the day, you're not a Volkswagen kid though. If you love them, you hate them. It's a love-hate relationship. But as of recent, I've kind of branched out and in the quest of what our car group calls for me to become Euro Thanos. And try to own just about every Euro there is. And, like I said, I've had that, newer Mercedes and then sold that. When I quit my job, I went back to school and in an attempt to get rid of debt, picked up an E46 330i. And what really drew me into Euros was you always see them. They're never really the fastest person on the street. But you look over at that dude in that slammed Mark II, Mark III, Mark IV, whatever it is, and he's banging through gears, making a shit ton of noise, and he's not really going anywhere, but he's got the biggest fucking smile on his face. And having a fucking blast of a time, bro. He might fucking smack his subframe on something, and he's just like, it was fucking hilarious, huh?
Want to see me do it again?
And that is, right. And that is really what, drew me into slammed cars and slammed Euros in specific. I haven't really branched out. I've had a few JDMs in my time, and, my first car ever, Fords and Volkswagens have really been
you had a Focus,
staple of my life.
Two Focus Eye.
Yeah.
Focus Eye.
I've had I had a Focus ST, and then I had a Focus. The ST wasn't bad because it was manual transmission. The regular one was an SE, and the transmission went out at 15,000 miles. And then other than that, man, it's really been Volkswagens and Euros. And like I said, if I haven't owned it, I have probably worked on it at some point in my life. But that's my release from the world, is working on cars. And you might see me in the moment and you're like, how does he enjoy this? Because I'm cussing it out, throwing wrenches and shit like that. But I guess maybe that's just my anger release.
In your pegboard. Years, bro.
I'm sure
it's stuck there.
I'm sure those vice
and it
grips
was like, I wanted to take it out, but I know that
you knew the purpose that they were there for.
Yeah, I knew it was like going to be a sour subject, so I just look at them and go. And I know every time you look at it, I can go back out to working on shit, So
those were from. It's real funny, man, because it wasn't it's hardly ever anything I ever do. Anybody who's worked with me knows I'm fairly meticulous in what I do, and so most of my frustration comes from previous owners, and that was from my Mark V Fahrenheit, and there's a check valve on the fuel pump. Well, this check valve, you kind of have to take off this check valve in order to pull off the fuel pump and replace the cam follower, which is right behind it. And the cam follower, anybody who's into Volkswagens knows that cam follower needs to be replaced every oil change or 2 oil changes, depending on how you're tuned and whatnot. Well, this thing was stripped to fuck, man. It was just rounded off, and it's brass. So I am fighting it with everything that I own, trying to get it off. Vice grips, everything else, and eventually I had to end up drilling a hole through it. And sticking like a very thin screwdriver through it and just kind of slowly tapping it until it finally broke loose and spun.
I think I still have a picture of the aftermath that isn't even recognizable as anything with threads or anything.
Right. And it was a fucking pain in the ass to get done. But yeah, that is kind of my my background on cars and whatnot. But this was a good episode, guys. We're already at like an hour and a half, so
We just gonna ignore the fact that Jeremy's frozen.
I am.
No,
I
we're
don't know
gonna leave
what
it
it
like
did.
that.
It said something about it shit the bed for whatever reason, but whatever. You hear me?
We're gonna leave them like that. But to summarize, Boots has owned a bunch of shit cars and nothing good. Jeremy owned a bunch of beaters. Will has put way too much money into a car that isn't worth it.
I think we've all done that.
Not wrong.
And I don't know, man. I'm a sucker for, a glutton for punishment and enjoy working on Euro cars. So we'll go ahead and end on that note. And we'll see you guys next week.
Later.
Later.
Later.